Hi, everybody. I think we're live on all of the intended platforms. Hey, everybody. I'm Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. I wanted to go live tonight with y'all. It's been a minute. So I am an immigration attorney and have an immigration firm here in the U.S. I work with clients internationally and all over the U.S. I work with businesses and heads of companies and HR directors and managers, and I also work with families. So on my business side, I work with companies that are hiring individuals that are not U.S. citizens. Sometimes that means they've put out an ad and the best candidate for that particular role happens to be someone that's not a U.S. citizen, or they are moving somebody from one of their overseas offices. So we help them get the right visa, and then if that work relationship is going well, then we will help the company sponsor that individual for a green card. On the family side of what my firm does, we work with family members. Usually it's a United States citizen who wants to get a green card for their fiance, their spouse, their dependent child, or their parent. Now, for the dependent children, they must be under 21 years old and unmarried. So if you are looking to sponsor your child who is 20 years old and married, then they are going to have to file their own immigration application, their own green card application, and they cannot be your dependent. So the one thing I want to talk about today, before we start taking some questions from people, and those of you that follow me regularly know that I tend to stay on for my lives well over an hour, but I'm not doing that tonight because I do need to go have some dinner. But one thing I want to talk about tonight, real briefly, are RFEs, requests for further evidence. Y'all, they happen. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of your case. I look at them as, in a sense, a gift. Sometimes a gift I didn't want, but a gift, because it gives you another opportunity to explain your case, explain your situation to the immigration officer. So what can happen is you file your application, the officer has more questions, they issue you a request for further evidence, otherwise known as an RFE. Once we respond to that, if they still have more questions or they still are not liking what they see, they can issue a notice of intent to deny, which we have another opportunity to send them more information. Once we respond to that notice of intent to deny, oftentimes referred to as a NOID, if they don't like it, then they may actually deny the application. But even if they deny the application, depending on the application type, we still have the opportunity to ask them to look at it one more time. So an RFE, y'all, is not the end of the world, and you can get an RFE on any single kind of filing that you do. So any kind of application that you have, you can get an RFE on that. So I wanted to really point that out to people. Some people come to me and, the RFE is like the end of the world, and it is absolutely not. My firm gets them. All law firms get them. Any law firm that tells you they don't get RFEs, I don't believe them, but all law firms get them. And so we are well versed with responding to RFEs. Now let me see what y'all have for questions. And let me see here. Y'all know I'm a slow scroller, but let me see what we have for questions. And I'm going live tonight on TikTok, the Facebook page, and the YouTube channel, all of which are at USA Visa Guru. So you have your platform of choice. Praveen is asking, can one do both paid internship and a full-time position while on OPT waiting H-1B to be approved? So if you are on OPT, you need to run that by your school. So I tell all of my students that are here in F1, M1, they're on their OPT. Any employment that they want, any employment that you are looking for, that really needs to be run by your school. the purpose of OPT, which is optional practical training, and you apply for, you're eligible for optional practical training after you complete a degree program, whether that degree program be a bachelor's, a master's, a PhD, an LLM, a JD. It is the purpose of OPT is to gain actual work experience in a field related to your degree. So you really need to have a conversation with the school and see whether or not how they're going to look at a paid internship in a full-time position while on OPT. They may or may not like that. I am not super well versed as your international student officer at your school. So definitely circle back to your school and have a chit chat with them. Let's see here. I'm 36, my husband is 23. Will the age difference be an issue? It absolutely could be, but honestly, 23 to 36 isn't too terribly bad of an age difference. But in general, the Immigration Service will look at a significant age difference when you're applying for a green card for your family member, specifically your spouse. And you will probably have to go to an interview. It's probably not going to be a case where they will not interview you. But I have certainly worked with and represented couples where there was a significant age difference. And when I see them in person, when I talk to them, the age difference completely drops away. So the Immigration Service is looking to see whether or not you are in a real relationship. Do you interact the way a real couple interacts? So, the age is but one thing that the Immigration Service looks at. They look at a multitude of things, but they are trying to figure out, and it is their job to try and figure out if you are in a real relationship. And so, again, age is just one factor that they look at. Y'all are sending me roses. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. I have a question. If I don't do tax with my wife, can I apply for my citizenship? So I think what you're asking is if you all don't file joint taxes, if you're a married couple, you're not filing joint taxes, can you apply for citizenship? So first I would ask, during consultation, why aren't you filing your taxes together? Why does that concern you? But the Immigration Service wants to see in a citizenship application that you do not owe back taxes, that you do not have a tax bill that is outstanding. If you do have a tax bill that is outstanding, what have you done to take steps towards rectifying that? Do you have a payment plan? Are you currently having conversations with the taxing authority about your taxes? So are you working towards a resolution of your taxes? Citizenship applications, the immigration officers look at what we call good moral character. So they want to see that you are not leaving a string of debt, especially to the federal government. So I always tell people one federal government agency, meaning the Immigration Service, is not going to give you a benefit, meaning citizenship, if you are not in line with another government agency, the taxing agency, the IRS. So, have you filed your taxes? Are you paying on your taxes? Do you have an overdue tax debt? That is more so what the Immigration Service is looking at, not necessarily whether or not you have filed jointly with a spouse. So keep that in mind, y'all. And the other thing I want to remind y'all is that while I'm an attorney and I have been practicing for over 20 years, I'm not your specific attorney. So all of our conversations are really educational. I cannot give you specific legal advice, one, because you're not my clients, and two, because I don't know all the facts surrounding your specific situation. So I would urge you, if you still have questions after this, and you may, and that's totally fine, speak to a qualified immigration attorney with any questions that you have. If you want me to be that attorney, you're welcome to schedule a consultation. We can talk some more. If you want that attorney to be someone else, that is also perfectly fine. But make sure that you are speaking with a qualified U.S. attorney for your U.S. immigration issues. Can I use, go back down. Can I use my ID to fly locally in the States? I'm not quite sure what ID you mean to fly sort of domestically within the US. But when you're flying in the US, you have to present government issued photo ID in order to get on the plane. So you're absolutely going to have identification in order to get on a plane in the United States and fly to another place in the US. So just keep that in mind. I don't know what kind of ID you're thinking about, but you will absolutely need ID in order to fly domestically within the US. I-130 cases from 2019. I don't know what your question is. Can you tell me something about I-130 cases 2019? I don't know what your question is, Mustafa. Are you asking about processing times, or are you asking, I don't know what your question is. Can parents' name error on marriage certificate impact AOS process? It could, but usually if you provide an explanation, like I don't know what the error is, but if you provide an explanation as to what has happened, you just kind of have to see what they say. They could issue you a request for further evidence, and if that's the case, they will generally tell you exactly what they would like to see. So it certainly could have an impact on an adjustment/green card application. You just have to see. I'd have to know what the error is, how it happened, that kind of thing. Mustafa, you're asking about processing times for I-130s from 2018. So I'm going to tell you what I tell everybody when they ask me about processing times. I don't know specific processing times off the top of my head. I will never know processing times off the top of my head. In general, your processing times are going to depend on what kind of case you filed and what office has your application. You can always go online to USCIS.gov and check the processing times there. If your specific case is beyond the processing time, you can do an inquiry right there on the USCIS website and tell them that you think your case is beyond the processing time. They will get back to you. Now, listen, y'all, they may not get back to you in the next week, but they will get back to you. So that is something that you want to use if you are eligible to make an inquiry. If your case is with NVC, NVC is a little bit harder to figure out what their processing times are. But the important thing to remember with NVC is that you must touch base with NVC at least once a year. If you go 366 days without touching base with NVC, they will cancel your application and send it back. So you must keep in contact with NVC. That could be logging into the SEAC portal where your application is. That could be, calling them. That could be sending them an email question. You must keep in touch with them at least once a year while your case is processing. Or else they will absolutely close your case. And then in order to get it reopened again, you're going to have to pay those visa fees again. So just be careful, just be aware of that. What else do we have? 4 questions. Applied for a visitation visa for my mom. How long does it have to wait? How long does she have to wait before applying for a change of status? Well, a visitor visa, let me give you some general info, y'all. A visitor visa is for someone to come to the US for a short-term end visit. If your intention when you come to the US is then to switch your visa status from a visitor to anything else, you have violated the intent of your status. So I do not recommend that. I do not recommend that at all. A visitor visa is specifically designed for people to come to the US, visit, go see family, go hang out, I don't know, go to the theater. There's also business visitors. They're designed to, sit in business meetings, sit in trainings, sit and attend a conference. It is not meant as a gateway to come to the US and then change your status. So keep that in mind. So that is what I will say about visitor visas and changing your status. Let me see here. I applied for a 601A in 2021. Can you tell me an estimate of the time that I will have to wait? Short answer is no, because I don't know any processing times off the top of my head. The longer answer is my office doesn't really handle 601A waivers. So I don't even have any sort of anecdotal evidence or evidence for you based on my own caseload, because I don't handle those cases. I believe, though, I could be wrong, but I believe if you go to the USCIS website, I believe 601 waivers might be in the drop-down menu when you go and look at processing times on the USCIS website. I think. Again, I don't handle 601 waivers in my practice. But that is where I would sort of tell you to start in terms of looking for processing times. But I do, just from hearing my friends talk about them who are other immigration lawyers, I do think the 601As are taking a while, y'all. I don't think it's going to be like a 6 month, here you go kind of thing. I think they are taking quite some time. Can USCIS officer waive unlawful work with adjustment of status filing by a U.S. citizen? So here's the rule. Here's what the rule says. If you enter the U.S. lawfully and you then fall out of status and become undocumented and you are working without authorization, and you then marry a U.S. citizen, and that U.S. citizen then sponsors your green card, your time spent in the U.S. out of status and any unlawful employment is forgiven. That is the rule. So I hope that is helpful. That's the plain Jane rule. It's not really about the USCIS officer waiving it. It is about the law makes it a non-issue. If the individual enters the U.S. lawfully, later falls out of status and becomes undocumented, they overstay their lawful entry, and then they marry a U.S. citizen. Now, y'all, this relationship needs to be a real relationship, cannot be fraudulent, all the things, right? It has to be a real relationship, but that's the rule. So, I've definitely had clients in the past who've come in and one thing leads to another. They have now overstayed. They've overstayed quite some time. Then they start dating somebody. That relationship takes its natural course. They get married. The U.S. citizen sponsors them. And they now have their green card and everyone's living happily ever after. But it is not a mechanism to be used for fraudulent marriages. Again, immigration officer's job is to try to figure out if you have a real relationship and that you are not trying to commit fraud against the U.S. government. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. How long is it taking USCIS to process a green card with an error? Quite a while. I have one of those now, quite a while. If you think it's beyond processing times, again, you can go to the USCIS website, uscis.gov, look at processing times, look at your specific case processing time, plug in your receipt number, and it will tell you when you can put in an inquiry. Wife and child, I-130 is pending. And last week I naturalized. What should I do now? Well, number one, we're going to congratulate you and be super excited that you naturalized last week. So that's awesome. Congratulations. And now you have an I-130 that's currently pending for your wife and child. So those applications, so now your wife and child, I don't know how old your child is, but assuming you have a child that meets the dependent rules in terms of age and marital status, your wife and your child now become immediate relatives. So you would need to tell the Immigration Service that they are now immediate relatives, and you can move that application along, which will be much, much faster. So congratulations. I love celebrating. That's awesome. I have an error on my work permit. How do I go about fixing it? You reach out to the Immigration Service and tell them there's an error on it. And then they should guide you through how to fix that. But yeah, you can reach out to the Immigration Service. And frankly, it depends on what the error is. It'll depend on what they tell you to do. It'll depend on how long it takes for them to fix it. But yep, you can reach out to the Immigration Service. Thank you for the roses, y'all. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Let me check. Looks like we've got some folks over on Facebook as well, on the YouTube channel, but I don't see any questions from y'all. Hold on. Let's see what we got here. Because if there are no more questions, y'all know I'm gonna go make some dinner. Let's see here. I probably should have pulled up my account before. Huh? All right. All right, I don't see any questions over on the YouTube channel or on the Facebook channel. All right, let's see. Somebody is asking, if prior marriage is not on the marriage certificate, can that affect my adjustment of status? So Department of State has what we call a reciprocity schedule, and they tell you what the civil documents, in this case a marriage certificate, where you can get them, what government agency in your home country needs to have issued them, if there are date restrictions or anything like that, if there are any sort of special seals or colors or whatever on the actual marriage certificate, they actually tell you that. So I don't know, because I don't know what your home country documents should look like. So I don't know if a prior marriage is expected to be listed on your marriage certificate from your home country. The Immigration Service, however, does know that, because they have a handy chart, and they will tell you. If it's something that is customarily there, then it should be there. If it's not, then it shouldn't be. But there are instances where there are documents issued from a religious body, and there are other documents that have been issued from a legal body in the home country. And in the home country, it's customary and usual to only get documents from your religious body. So that could be a marriage certificate, a divorce certificate. I've had this happen quite a bit with those two documents, where in your home country, those two are perfectly fine, and you move around your whole life with just those two documents that have been issued from a religious body. But when trying to then get a U.S. immigration benefit, you were told that you need, perhaps your marriage certificate, your birth certificate, your divorce decree from a legal body. So I don't know if that may be what's occurring, but that sometimes happens. So that is why checking that reciprocity table is so important. Let's see here. Someone has asked a question that intersects with asylum. Is there a possibility of getting a green card earlier after applying for it based on granted asylum? I don't know. I don't handle any asylum in my practice, so I have no idea. I will not even hazard a guess. And if y'all have ever watched any of my other lives or been following me or had consultations with me, I'm perfectly comfortable telling you when I don't know something. Let's see here. Where is it? So when I was saying before as a green, oh, I'm just kidding. Before as a green card holder, one I-130 was filed only for wife and child. I don't understand your question. But listen, I would say if you've got sort of follow-up questions, then that means I need to dig in further with you, and I need to dig in further based on your specific situation. So your best course of action is to schedule a consultation with my office, and that way I can dig into some of these, some of these additional questions, and that way I know what your entire situation is because I'm going to ask you what it is. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and then we can kind of get to the bottom of what your questions are. Let me see here. Let me see. I don't see any more questions on Facebook. I don't see any more questions on YouTube. Nothing more on TikTok. So y'all know what that means. That means I'm going to go make some dinner, although I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to make yet. I feel like I need to do like a whole live with me trying to figure out what's for dinner. Y'all might actually find that fascinating because it's a whole process of my life. So thanks for tuning in. I didn't want to be on here too late tonight because I still have some more work that I need to do to get out to clients this evening and then get myself set up for the week. But it has been lovely as always. I am Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. Feel free to follow me on all of these social media platforms. I am on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I also have a private Facebook group if you would like to join that as well. All of the social media handles are at USA Visa Guru. If you need help with an application, you want to set up a consultation, you are welcome to do that as well, just by clicking the link, and it will tell you all the things you need to do to make that happen. It's really quite easy. Click a link. But it has been wonderful as always, and I will chat with y'all later. I might be live tomorrow night again. I'm not quite sure. I might be live tomorrow night. I have to check my schedule, but I'll be back. So I will chat with y'all later. Bye, guys.